Hi, and welcome to this installment of Frank and Mary here in Westboro, the COVID-19 edition. If you haven't seen the show before, my name is Art Bergeron. I'm an elder law attorney. Actually, I work here in Westboro at Myrick O'Connell. There are 70 of us in all, so everybody gets to do what they like. I like elder law, but this is not about elder law. This is about my friends Frank and Mary. You may have seen them on shows that I have done or presentations that I have done. And their goal in life is to live in their house until they die and be buried in the backyard. And if that's in Westboro, that means here, which means they've been in their house a lot over the last several weeks. And that's one of the reasons that my co-host, Shelby Marshall, and I decided to do this series, because we realized that a lot of things have changed, especially for seniors, and continue to change. And so, you all know Shelby. Shelby's the wonderful selectman who I'm here mainly to provide comic relief to her. And Shelby always invites terrific guests. And I know, Shelby, you have another guest who, because of scheduling things, needs to come next week instead of this week. But in the meantime, we wanted to be really talking about several kind of major issues that are going on. So here you are.
Yes. So I'm our own guest this week. So hopefully we'll be able to provide enough entertainment that our viewers will watch the whole show. But before we get into our show, I do want to give our viewers a heads up that next week, our town moderator, John Arnold, will be here to talk to us about the plans for town meeting. Tentatively, it is scheduled right now for June 20th. Lots of conversations taking place right now between himself, the Board of Health, our town clerk, and the Board of Selectmen to ensure everyone's safety, as well as balancing equality and access for anyone that wants to attend. So more to come on that, and he'll be our guest next week.
That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
I think and what else? Where do you want to go next?
Yes,
I know we're going to talk numbers at some point, and that's
I want to just give the community an update across a couple of areas. Today we'll talk about kind of phase 2 opening, give the community a quick update on our task force work. Really important conversations going on about the budget, and then staffing study and upcoming events. So let's jump into it. So the first thing I want to just give some folks some positive news, that we've really seen a positive negative trend of new cases. So if we look back about a month ago, the Board of Health had shared that we had 35 new cases and 12 deaths. At our joint Board of Health and Board of Selectmen meeting yesterday, they reported 8 new cases and 1 death. And even of those 8 new cases, a couple of those were lagging information in getting to the town. So numbers are going in a great direction. That really does support the phased reopening that aligns with Governor Baker's plans. So as we look at phase 2, we're working with local businesses, particularly restaurants and retail restaurants, to allow outside seat-in dining. Lodging is scheduled to open up. No events, but lodging, professional services, outdoor historical spaces, no tours, but at least you could kind of get out and enjoy those. And funeral homes will be able to expand to 40% capacity for single family events at one time, as well as, our town offices and teams, as we know, have been operating on a regular schedule, although they've been sharing kind of when folks are coming in. The town offices will start to open up, and so folks can go in and conduct business there. So lots of work being done to prepare for what is known as phase 2.
So can I ask a couple questions about that? First, for the benefit of the folks who are here, if you happen to know, do you know how the senior center falls into all of that? Because I know from talking to folks in other communities, I've always gotten the sense that the senior center is going to be more like a phase 3 item. People are really nervous about that.
Yes.
So if you can just kind of talk about that a little bit, and then maybe we can talk a little more about restaurants. Okay.
Yeah. So that is my understanding that in terms of town offices, the senior center, in offering its normal activities, bingo, exercising, that sort of thing, will not be part of phase 2. Whether or not there are any events that can be held outdoor to promote safe social engagement is to be determined. That hasn't been discussed at this point. Although I do want to make sure that everyone understands that our senior center has been open and operational and doing a lot of work to support seniors remotely, as well as reaching out to them in the community this whole time. So while the doors might be kind of closed and the lights dim, a lot of work has been going on.
And I just wanted to mention, so once again, as we've said many times in this presentation, the fact that you can't get in the door, it doesn't mean that no one's home. And that the fact that if you call, they don't answer right away, doesn't mean they're not picking it up. So if you need something, call the senior center. They'll get back. They're regularly checking, and they'll get back to you right away.
Yeah, they've done an amazing job of outreach. Yep.
Can you just talk a little bit more about restaurants? Isn't that, it's funny. I actually remember I just saw something come across my desk because I see a lot of of course, I see the legal side showing up. And I saw legislation that got passed authorizing communities to give permits for outdoor seating, despite any of the current, zoning controls regarding that, which I thought was pretty terrific.
Yeah.
So can you just kind of talk about how you're thinking about that stuff?
Yeah. So we talked about this last night at our Board of Selectmen meeting and with the Board of Health. And so you're exactly right. Basically, what we've done is that we've moved the temporary permitting process. This is going to kind of fall under temporary structures. It will be overseen. There's a very specific process that has been outlined by the governor's office of how restaurants can reopen and the precautions that they have to put in place. So as a town, we've put that control under the building commissioner, Fred Leonardo, and he'll work with public safety officials to make sure that, fire access is appropriate. He'll work with the Board of Health to make sure that we talked about how do you ensure that patrons can safely maneuver to and from the bathroom, right? And it's going to be different for each spot. If you go to Harry's, there's one bathroom and everyone sort of uses it, whereas you go to Arturo's, they've got multiple bathrooms. So a lot of customization, but we'll use for businesses, we'll use the online Permit Pro system. They can apply, and Board of Selectmen at its next meeting will ultimately probably vote to, I hope, I'm in support of it, alter the alcohol liquor license so that folks can actually serve outside, whereas maybe before they were not permitted to do so. Any use of public space, so if a restaurant wanted to use a public parking space, that would have to come back to the Board of Selectmen. But if, let's say, they're part of a shopping mall, we have, Ted's and Tavolino down at Bay State. If they work with the landlord, they could potentially add on to its capacity for outside dining. That would have to be part of the plan that they present at to the building commissioner.
That's a great idea. This may be one of the many little bright things about what happened as a result of COVID. I think there's been an increasing movement, and I've certainly seen it over in Marlborough where I live, to shifting to outdoor dining, it just in order to make people more comfortable, and this could be a real positive thing that way. That's great. That's all great news.
Very, very.
So now we're going to talk a little bit about the budget, you said.
Oh,
and,
yes,
and I'm really interested in that. So what do you got? You said you're gonna actually draw some things on the screen so that
I might not get that sophisticated, but I am going to share the screen. So you're going to see me disappear for a moment, and hopefully this works. Aiden says I've got to give it just a moment. While I'm pulling up that screen, what I'll do is I'll preface it that, of course, we're in current fiscal year 2020. We do have a budget shortfall of $700,000, but we anticipate that we'll be able to fully cover that with unexpended budget. So short response to the taxpayers is no impact to you. You're not going to see anything over. It will be a balanced budget at the end of fiscal year 2020. And hang on one second. Let me try to share my screen again. Great. So what the viewers should be able to see right now is the presentation that our town manager, Christy Williams, presented to the Board of Selectmen most recently. So this is the most updated presentation. It will be available on our town's website. I can show folks where that is after. But what I think is important is that this is an evolving situation. The town still does not have firm guidance from the state as to state aid. This slide speaks to the shortfall we just talked about. And if we sort of go way back in time, April 14th, this is the situation that we were looking at, Arthur. We were looking at an estimated revenue shortfall in combined state aid reduction of about $1.3 million. And, at that time, it's sort of amazing when I look back and I go, okay, that was a little, it was a little bit breathtaking. You kind of go, okay, we can figure this out because it's less than 2%. And then we started to see some changes. So the most recent guidance from the state is that we should be looking at back to 2008 with the financial crisis as a guide to what our state aid estimates will be. And so you're seeing here that that's an 11% reduction in state aid estimated to Westboro. A little bit painful. You add to that updated reductions in local receipts. So, and again, these are estimates, maybe people buying fewer vehicles. Certainly hotels and motels have been closed. Meals have been, we just talked about dining and how that's been restricted. So we see that we're estimating a 19.5% reduction in local receipts. So when you take all that and you put it together in a sandwich, we found that there was an initial shortfall of about $3.3 million. Our town departments and schools collectively have worked very hard to come up with some budget cuts. So there's a first round of budget cuts. We were able to shave off $1.2 million. Went back and did a second round. And so the remaining shortfall was about 1.5 million. There was a further round of cuts after that. And so our current gap is about 1.08 million. And if we were to stay to that, hold on, hang on one second. Sorry, wrong page. Basically, if we change nothing, we'd be looking at an increase in our tax rate from 5% to just over 6%. And so that would be a change to the average family household from $456 to $593. Obviously, that's not the goal of the selectmen nor anyone else in the town. And so the schools and the town are looking at further cuts as well as moving warrant articles around, significantly reducing the number of articles that we see, and delaying any expenditures that we can offset. So the ultimate thought at this point, I'll just kind of walk you through this very quickly. Oops, sorry. Is that these are right now, this is kind of a draft warrant and what we're looking at. So we are still looking at, some of our traditional articles. You'll see in the second column where we have items that, no appropriation or where there is budgetary numbers attached to it, as well as those that we're proposing to defer to October. You'll see lots here. We had a pretty big DPW capital investment initiative going on. Those have all been moved to October. We are keeping the pump station on. We don't want sewer pump stations to fail. That would be a really bad.
That could really cost you some money, right?
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
And then we do have the ambulance purchase still on there. Part of that is also being funded with ambulance receipts through, insurance and money that comes back to the town. We are purchasing, delaying purchase of some of the cruisers. Of particular importance here, you'll see line item number 12, which is the tuition-free kindergarten initiative. That number has already been reduced by the school department, and we anticipate, based on the superintendent's presentation to the board this week, that it's very possible that almost all of that will be absorbed between unexpended budget from the transportation that wasn't used this year, as well as other budget cuts and hiring freezes. Last night at our Board of Selectmen meeting, we decided to terminate the the purchase and sale on number 14, so that will go away. And then this sort of wraps up the remainder of the article. So the proposed budget proposes to use actually less free cash in at this time. And if we combine the town cuts, the school cuts, and the debt reduction savings and the use of free cash, we feel like we can get back to the 4.67% increase that we had already projected as part of the the new tax rate.
Well, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So and while still preserving, free cash, because we do anticipate in October, and again, none of us know what's going to happen with this COVID thing. It's going to swing back, or what the fall, winter flu season is going to be like, but we will still have significant reserves.
And I was just going to say, can you give folks an order of magnitude number about what the reserve is, and if it turns out in October that you've got a problem, obviously then you're in the middle of a budget year. So were you figuring that in October, if there's a problem, you'd simply be pulling that out of reserves?
We haven't discussed that. We do have significant reserves, and I'm looking here. Sorry. We'll be able to stay within nope. Hold on. I'm going to come back here.
Well, you told me you wanted me to pepper you with questions when we started, Shelby.
I know. Yeah. Thanks, Arthur. You know what? I should have had that one ready.
So you should have left me with comic relief.
I know. Let me see if I come back here while I'm doing this. So we will still have a 14.5% of. Or am I back?
Yes.
Okay. 14.5% of our operating budget will be in reserves, which is within the Board of Selectmen's goal of 10 to 15%.
That's a big number. That's a big number. So if
about 100 million.
even if things go kind of further south in this fall, which
Right.
we don't know. I mean, that's
Right.
been the whole. It's been the whole process that we've lived through for all these months has been, and I think it's been great that people have, like Dr. Fauci, people have planned for the worst, and given us numbers planning for the worst and said, that's how bad it could be, but we'll work on it and let's step back from that. And it sounds like you're doing that. You're really doing that as far as the town is concerned.
Right, and there's there's certainly questions where people say, well, why aren't we using more free cash particularly in this time, if people have been hit hard, they've lost their job, to further reduce the impact on the taxpayer. And it's a slippery slope, right? We don't know what we're heading for, and we never want to use as a general principle free cash for our operating budget. Potentially, we could use more free cash for other expenditures versus a borrow. But I have full confidence in our finance team in terms of how they are managing this and finding that delicate balance of recognizing the awesome services that we receive here in this town and the cost that it takes to provide them, while certainly understanding the situation we're in and cutting sort of the slicing some of the thin fat off of the budget, if you will. Right.
And do you have a sense, Shelby, just off the top of your head, of how much excess levy capacity you have? So I'm just curious, because I think that could also gives folks some consolation to know that on the one side, obviously you want to be keeping the rate low. On the other side, you don't want to be getting close to
10.5%
overrides and all that jazz.
10.5.
So it's a lot. You've still got a big ways to go right? In
Yeah,
terms of your
and
kind of
we
your
just,
protection. That's great.
because of the great work of the finance department, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but we were just able to, restate our AAA bond rating, and we were able to lower our, actually see savings in debt reduction. That actually contributed to some of the budget reductions. So we've just done an amazing job of managing, our budgets and our debt, and that's really a testament to all the departments and how that rolls up in the strategic planning that continues to happen, while dealing with the slog of this pandemic.
And I know that to close, I know that you would said you wanted to talk for a few minutes about the personnel plan.
Yeah, the
Do you
staffing
want to
study.
say a few words about that? Good.
Yep.
Please talk. You want to talk about that?
Yep, I do. Thank you. So I won't go back and share my screen because that'll take precious minutes. But on our town website, first of all, we conducted a staffing study that excluded public safety, and that staffing study is now available through the website. And you can go into the town manager and look on the left-hand side, staffing study. Most important, there's an opportunity to comment on the staffing study. So you can click on it, you can read it. We presented it, or the consultant presented it to the Board of Selectmen on April 14th. If you go back to Westboro TV, it's around the 1 hour and 50-minute mark. So you can watch that presentation. I thought it was great overview. But most important, there's an opportunity on the town's website to provide comments. So read it. We want to hear from the public. What do you think? It's this juxtaposition between budget cuts and budget shortfalls to, you have to be planning for the future, and how does Westboro sort of evolve and continue to provide services, but in maybe a more efficient way. It's not just about adding headcount. If folks have ideas and they're not comfortable with putting them out on the website for any reason, we'll have Westboro TV put my email address on this screen so that folks can see it. And we can even have Christy Williams come in and talk further about that staffing study, or another selectman at some point.
That'd be great. That'd be great. And just one final thing. So looking at the staffing study, was there anything in particular that you looked at and said, ooh, that's a really interesting idea? Or, ooh, that's a dog? Either way.
I thought it was really interesting.
Or do you want to reserve that until you've got comments? I didn't want to put you on the spot. I was just curious.
Yep. Yeah, two quick things. One is creation of a public information officer, or some title of that, to help with communications. I think it's an area we do okay within the town, but not great. So that was kind of interesting, as well as the creation of I think they called it a human services department, which would bring youth and family services and the senior services together under one kind of organization. So that was interesting. And again, it's kind of proposed study. You got to kind of get into the pages and understand the impact of that. I do want to take just a minute before we wrap up, Arthur, and remind folks of some important upcoming events. Since this will be available for viewing on Friday, it gives us time to talk about the high school parade to celebrate Westboro High School class of 2020. That parade will be it's a vehicle parade starting at the high school, and going down to Hastings on Saturday, June 6th at 12 p.m. So come out, be socially distanced, hang out with your family, and cheer on the Westboro seniors. On Sunday at 5 p.m. at Bay State Commons, there is a peaceful, want to underscore that, vigil planned for 5 p to 7 p. To peacefully protest the tragedy that we've seen across the country with the passing of George Floyd and equality for all people. And then on Saturday, June 13th, are our town elections, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Town Hall. You can also contact the town clerk and have them mail you a ballot, or you can download that and mail it in. That's all I got.
Geez, that's all, and it's been a whole week since the last show. So thank you, Shelby. It's just, we should have you on more often. You're good. You're really good. So we will look forward to talking to your town moderator next time. We'll talk all about town meeting and take some, and by the way, if folks have got questions for Shelby, once again, you've got her email. give her a shout, and we can be so that we can kind of be talking. If we're talking to the town manager, we can be trying to raise any of those issues, right?
Yep. Excellent.
So thank you, Shelby. Thank you to the wonderful people at Westboro Cable, and thank you to our friend Karen Henderson and our producer Aiden Horrigan, and we look forward to seeing you all on the next installment of Frank and Mary here in Westboro, the COVID-19 edition. Thank you. Be safe.